to the Restore It Ralph channel. Today I'm going to be doing some welding projects for Dirty Harry, the turbo Dodge Diplomat. Dirty Harry is still on the trailer from a test and tune session that we went to last week. I'm going to take it to Mopar Nationals this coming weekend, so I figured there's no sense in unloading it. Figured might as well save my back a little bit. That doesn't mean I can't get some projects done in the meantime. I want to try and repair the hitch for possible drag and drive events. I'd like to put an adjustable pinion snubber on this thing and maybe take some weight out of it. A project I'd like to tackle for the Diplomat is making a adjustable pinion snubber, and I got one here that the rubber piece is removed because it's broken. This is a factory one. This bolts on top of the center section of the axle and prevents axle windup and wheel hop by that rubber block hitting a reinforced spot in the floor pan. It's too far away from the floor pan right now to catch it in time on my car. And so I'm gonna make a adjustable pinion snubber with a control arm bumper, a couple nuts, and see if that works. So looking underneath the car here, there's the factory style pinion snubber. There's the reinforced area in the floor, and we've got, I don't know, 3 inches or so gap in between. So when the axle starts to wrap up and twist the leaf springs, it moves quite a bit, and then it reacts, and then you get wheel hop. What I'm looking at doing here is gauging the amount of space I'd like in between the amount of adjustability, and then trying to make it all work and fit without having anything come through this thing, because as that yoke spins around, it's pretty close to that pinion snubber plate. So basically I got to make some level of adjustability on the top here without it being bottomed out all the time, and then have it to where it's adjustable to where I can get it pretty close when I'm getting ready to go racing. The pieces I'm going to attempt to use here is a control arm bumper from, I don't even know what, some sort of Mopar. And then I picked up some 3/4 10 coarse thread nuts and bolts. And I might use a combination of either a bolt here that would thread up and down, weld a nut to here, and then I did pick up a couple jam nuts that are a little bit thinner, so that way when I get it adjusted where I want it, I can tighten it against itself and it won't vibrate loose and move up and down. As you can see, this is not a precision operation. What I'm doing is drilling the center of this bolt to accept the 3/8/16 stud on the control arm bumper. So that'll thread into the top of this bolt, and I'll use this bolt to adjust up and down on the plate. This is my first draft, hopefully last draft, of the pinion snubber. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld this nut to the plate, and then I'll be able to adjust this up and down. I'm hoping that I have enough room in there for that jam nut as well. I'm going to have to just weld this in place and see how far I got. Just as a preliminary check, if I set this big nut on top of the plate, I'm going to be pretty close to the floor pan, which would be fine for all the time drag racing, but it might be a little bit much for just driving around on the street. Plus I don't have room for a jam nut in here, which I don't like. What I may end up doing is taking this nut and countersinking it a little bit into the plate, so that way it sits a little bit deeper, and then I'll have a little bit more room. The other thing I can do is maybe use a lock washer in between. I don't know, not sure if I like this quite as much as I thought I would. What I may end up doing is taking the bolt and cutting it off so it's basically a piece of all thread, and then threading the pinion snubber rubber right into it, and then I won't have this other nut here, and that will give me room for a jam nut and give me a lot more adjustability. After a little bit of trial and error, I got my next version here. So I cut the head off the bolt, I've got my jam nut, and then I've got the main nut, and that will sit pretty much on top of that plate. The way I got it adjusted here is it's basically touching the floor pan. So if I take this thing and thread it in, so that right there is flush to the end of this bolt stud. I set it up, oops, if I set it up on top here, I've got a little bit more space. And what I may end up doing is trimming the edge of this center stud, so that way when I release it all the way down or farther away from the floor pan, the stud is not hitting my yoke. I did drill a hole in my plate, so I do have some adjustability in there, and I can watch it and put it pretty close, but I just want to make sure that I don't have that yoke bashing against that thing. Got a spare bolt and the nut that I want welded to the top of it on here, and then a nut on the back side just to hold it all in place. So I'm going to burn this nut onto the plate. I'm going to weld those two slots shut too and get this thing ready. If you can't weld good, weld a lot. Waiting on the El Cheapo rattle can to dry. Do a test fit and then see how much adjustment I actually have out of this deal. Adjustable pinion snubber is in. So I may end up trimming this rubber to where it's a little bit flatter and give me more clearance. So that way it'll give me more adjustment when I move this thing up. When I move this thing up towards the floor pan, like right now, I can't even get my finger in there. That still gives us plenty of engagement. I probably could have gone with a 1-inch bolt, but I did 3/4 because that's what I saw first. And I had jam nuts for that, or could get jam nuts for that. So I think this might work. We'll do some testing and tuning and see how it goes. Back when my uncle owned this car, he put a trailer hitch on it and actually pulled his boat, which this trailer hitch is probably a little undersized for that. And the car is probably a little bit undersized for it. It's a 22-foot Starcraft, so that's probably why the transmission smoked out of this car. But I took this hitch off when I built this car in 2020. The 1.25 inch solid receiver insert was seized in this thing, rusted in it. And at school with the torch, we tried to heat and get this thing out of it. And finally, we just cut it off because, well, it was destroying my shins. So I held onto this thing. I threw it in the scrap pile behind the barn that I never scrap anything out of. And I think I'm going to try and cut the 1.25 inch receiver off of it, weld a 2-inch receiver on it. I'm going to use this for a really light duty hitch, but still make it more user friendly with the 2-inch stuff. I'm not really in love with the overall design of this hitch, but I get why they did it. Got this like plate and drop to get the receiver down low enough to where it fits underneath the bumper. I think what I'm going to try and do is cut this receiver off of here, retain this plate and the back plate. I went to good old Harbor Freight and got this step bumper to receiver adapter. It's got a plate on top of it, and I think once I cut that off, I can weld and maybe even add some bolts in it to strengthen it up, put that underneath there in place of the 1.25 inch and repair this hitch. I'm going to begin cutting this little dink cheese receiver off this thing, and I guess I'm going to start off with a cutoff wheel and see how that goes. If I need to, I'll get the oxyacetylene torch out, but I don't know, it kind of makes a mess of everything, so I'm going to try this first. Got it cut off. Now to switch to a flap wheel and get this dressed up. This is shaping up okay. I think I'm gonna take this little angle, like that beveled edge, I'm gonna trim that flat across so that way I get more area to weld on that area without pulling this thing forward, so I can still weld it on that back tab. Ground down, clamped up. Time to burn this thing together. This thing is all welded up. I always think grinding my welds is going to make them look better, but it doesn't. Just got done shooting some barbecue paint on this thing, so it'll be flat black, it'll be up underneath the car, you won't really notice it. After looking at some of the condition of this hitch, like the plates and the pitting in them, I'm not sure that I'm ever going to use this thing for real. This is more just a conversation piece about like how the car was, I don't know, used to tow a boat back in the day and how great of an idea that was. But the reality is this thing probably won't be used for anything. And if it is, it's going to be light duty, like a small trailer for a drag week, something like that. It'll do just fine. The hitch is loosely hung. The two upper mounting bolts, got to get some in these side brackets and then tighten everything up. All right, hitch is bolted in place. From this angle, it looks pretty good. If I was being picky about it, I think it hangs a little bit low and I would rather it be tucked a little bit higher towards the bumper, but that's probably fine. It's probably a little bit far inward as far as the hitch versus the bumper goes. I'm gonna put an insert in it, see what it fits like. After testing it, I actually kind of like it. I think it sits just about right. It doesn't hang out terribly far, so when you're walking by, you won't bash your shins on it. And still a trailer will go on there with no issues, so I think that's good. Now this thing's ready for drag week. I, on the other hand, am not ready for drag week. I was talking to my cousin last night, and he reminded me that I've been running 12-second passes with a full-size spare tire and jack. So I'm thinking of ways to change that. We were talking about making a cardboard tire to fit underneath this carpet. Talking to my dad today, he gave me an idea of something inflatable. Went rummaging through the basement and found this. It's a little bit too big. Went through the barn and found this inner tube. I think it's for a garden tractor or something like that. So I'm going to put some air in it, see how big it gets, and see if it fits underneath this carpet piece. I love it. This spare tire cover is actually out of my dad's Volare that he bought new, but it doesn't quite match the carpet in this thing, so I'm not sure which one I'm going to use. This one's in much better shape, but it's got loop versus cut pile. I can't live with that, right? Yes, that needed to happen. If anything, it looks like it could be a space saver underneath there, but I think nobody's going to really notice. Until you flip it up, see there's just an inner tube underneath there. I'm going to make something like out of cardboard or something so I can use that center post to just locate it so it doesn't fly around the trunk. Found a piece of packing foam, so I think I'm going to trim that out and see if it'll kind of swedge down in there and poke a hole in it. I think that's going to work perfectly. Plus I'm going to thread my wing nut on there so I don't lose it. I think that's going to work perfectly. And being foam and an inner tube, it's got to be way lighter than, well, I don't know, a steel wheel with a spare on it. Time to throw the blanket on it. Yep, still running 12s with a full-size spare. Or are we? Yes, love it. £38. makes sense. All right, I'm gonna pick up the jack and lug wrench and reweigh myself. Come on. All right. Got the adjustable pinion snubber fabricated, got the hitch fabricated and mounted on the car, and then we got some weight savings out of the trunk. I think that's going to do it for this video. It's starting to sprinkle out here, and we are getting ready to go to Mopar Nationals this weekend, so I think it's done. Got a couple fabrication projects done for the car, and we'll be able to test it soon. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the Restore It Ralph channel.